Let's recap what we mean by indexing. You have a website, you publish content on it. Every day Google sends out bots or spiders to crawl the pages of your site. Google then indexes those pages. What it means, it makes a record of those pages in its great big database of the web that it has called its index. If your page meets the ranking criteria, then Google will show that page up in its search results. Now, if your page is not indexed, that means it will not appear in the search results. So you want to aim to get as many of your pages, preferably all of them, in Google's index. So how do you find out how many pages are in Google's index? One way is to use the cite : operator, and then your domain. It'll give you a rough idea of how many pages are in the index. Here it says 468 results. Alternatively, if you want to see what pages Google has in its index, you can go into the Google Search Console, and then if you go to indexing and then pages, Google will tell you how many pages that have been indexed. You can click on View Data about Indexed Pages, and it'll tell you the pages that have been indexed. You can also see pages that haven't been indexed and the reasons why they haven't been indexed. Frequently, a search engine will be able to access parts of your site by crawling, but some pages or sections may be inaccessible. To maximize your natural search engine performance, it is important to ensure that the search engines are able to discover all the content you want indexed. So what are common issues with indexing? First one is your site is new. It takes Google a few days to visit and index new sites. If your site is still not indexed after a few weeks, then it could be because no other sites are linking to it. You can tell Google about your site by creating a Google Search Console account and adding your sitemap. A sitemap is a file which contains a list of all your pages. It is usually created by your CMS like WordPress or Shopify. Normally sits in the root directory. Here, this is my consulting site. It's venlab.com sitemap-1.xml. That's where the CMS will create the file and update it there. You can then submit that to your Google Search Console account. If you go to your domain and then sitemaps, you can tell Google where the sitemap is. You're effectively then telling Google that you wanted to index those pages. Another issue that might be affecting your indexing is manual actions. So if you've done something which is against Google's rules, it may apply a manual action to your site saying that they don't like what you're doing and they're de-indexing you. And if that has happened, it will be under security and manual actions. And it says here, no issues detected because we've been good, but if there was an issue, it would be listed here. Another common problem is content hidden behind a login. If your site requires users to log in or complete a form to access certain content, search engines will not be able to access this page. Google also has problems reading non-text media forms, for example, images, videos, or GIFs. So these should not be used to display text if you want them indexed. It is best practice to add text with an HTML markup on your web page. Furthermore, non-text content is not readable by screen readers, making your site inaccessible to the partially sighted. You can also have problems if search engines cannot follow your site navigation. To read your site, a crawler needs a path of links to guide it from page to page. A page will not be indexed if it's not linked to from other pages. So here's an example. This one here, this is a directory structure here. This page here is not linked to from other pages. Therefore, search engines will have difficulty finding it. Though Google has got a lot better at reading JavaScript menus, JavaScript menus can also cause problems for search engines. Any navigation where a menu item is not in HTML, such as JavaScript-enabled navigations, can cause crawling issues. Though Google has got better at crawling and understanding JavaScript, the most reliable way of getting something crawled and indexed by Google is by putting it in HTML. So on my consulting site, these menus on the right-hand side are in JavaScript, so we need to provide another way of Google to find these pages. So we need to have these pages either in an on-site sitemap or provide it as a sitemap to Google Search Console. So what is best practice to ensure that as much of your site gets indexed as possible? Firstly, you need to maximize your crawl budget. The crawl budget is the average number of pages that the Googlebot will crawl in your site before leaving. If you have a very large site, for example an e-commerce site with thousands of products, you need to ensure that your crawl budget is not all used up before it has indexed the important pages of your site. Crawl budget optimization ensures that the Googlebot is not wasting time crawling through unimportant pages and ignoring important pages. You do this by excluding pages that you don't want indexed, for example checkout pages, pages with very little content, or duplicate pages. There's three ways that you can do this. First is by setting a robots.txt file. Secondly is adding a canonical tag. And third is by setting Google Search Console parameters. Robots.txt files are files that are placed in your website's root directory. For example, we're looking on the Amazon site here, amazon.co.uk robots.txt. And it tells the search engines the parts of your site they should and should not crawl, as well as the speed they should crawl your site. All sites should have a robots.txt file, and most content management systems will create one automatically. Robots.txt files are easy ways of stopping Google from indexing parts of your site. However, be careful to ensure that it does not contain errors and is stopping Google from indexing pages you actually want indexed. The Googlebot will look at the robots.txt file when it visits the site and act in the following ways. If it cannot find a robots.txt file, it will just proceed to call the site. If it finds the robots.txt file, it will usually follow the suggestions and proceed to call the site, missing out the pages that you have asked it to. Finally, if it encounters an error while trying to access the robots.txt file, it will not call the site. So this is why it's vital that you create a robots.txt file with the right format. It's important that you check your robots.txt file before adding it to your site, and there are various tools online for enabling you to do that. If Google crawls the same content on different web pages, it will not always know which page to index in the search results. By adding the rel canonical tag to preferred pages, you identify to search engines which is the preferred version of the content, that is, the one to index, and therefore avoid indexing the other pages which are duplicated. For example, content management systems like Shopify allow the same product to be accessed via multiple URLs. For example, product, and it can be added just from the kind of root directory, shop.com/product, or it could be category 2 product or category 3 product if it's in multiple categories. So by adding this canonical tag to this site, this page, the product, and here's an example of what the canonical tag looks like, you'll be telling Google that that is the original version of the content and they should ignore those ones. A site structure is how the pages on your website are organized. In general, you should create a structure where your site pages are only a few clicks from one another. This is called a flat structure. It makes it easy for both Google and your customers to navigate your site. So for example, here, this is a flat structure. So this would be like home and then category 1 and then products. And here's a bit of a messy structure. And you can see here, it's a bit all over the place. But the important thing to note is down here, you have a product, which is outside the category structure. And therefore, it'll be very hard for Google to find. And it's also going to have to go much further into this category structure to actually find your pages. You need to make it easy for Google to find your pages. Having a logical and consistent URL structure not only helps Google to crawl your site, but also helps users to understand where they are on your site. By putting pages under different categories gives Google extra content about the page in that category. So if we've got shop.com, product 1, and what we've got shop.com, category 2, product 2, category 3, product 3. So that category would have a name, and Google is going to be able to take the context from that category and use that in its search engine results. And it's going to be easy for customers to see where they are in the hierarchy. Sites should also employ breadcrumb navigation. Breadcrumbs automatically add internal links to categories and subpages on your site and help both Google and users navigate the site. So if we take a look at the John Lewis website, this is an e-commerce site. You can see this is the breadcrumbs at the top here, and it's got the so-called breadcrumb after Hansel and Gretel following the breadcrumbs through the forest. It has the categories there and the route that the user has taken to find this category. So they can easily see where they are, and Google also has a route to find the category, to navigate through the site to find new categories. One of the most important ways you can help Google navigate your site is by submitting a sitemap. This is very much like what it sounds. It's a list of pages that you send to Google or the other search engines, and it tells them about the content of your site. It is a simple way to ensure that Google is notified of your highest priority pages. Sitemaps should be created using Google specification and submitted via the Google Search Console. Now, all of these factors, like the canonical tags, the robots.txt, and the sitemap, will probably be created by your CMS automatically, but you should check that they are being created. You should make sure they're set up properly, and you should submit them to Google.